Hello and welcome to Trading Supra featuring FillFinder Plus Automation. This is a request video for Friday, January 26, 2018 for the Dow Mini Futures contract, the March 2018 contract. If you have a market that you're interested in, you're more than welcome to put in the comments the zone that you're interested in and the market, etc., and maybe we can make a video for you too. 26412 to 26401 is the requested support zone, so I'll put that in. And then the resistance zone that was requested is 26446 up to 26457. And I'll activate resistance, and you can see that in the top right. And so this was a these zones are requested by someone interested in seeing the behavior of FillFinder Plus Automation. A lot of traders, some of you are looking for assistance for education with regard to where to locate price bands where the market is likely to slow down or perhaps reverse. And then other traders already feel very good about the zones that they work with and are just simply looking for a confirmation or an aid to bolster their decision making, perhaps to help with timing, etc. And then also to help with your ability to trade multiple markets throughout the session rather than being overwhelmed when, if you have zones prepared for 5 markets and 3 out of those 5, it's in one of your zones. It's hard to get your fills, whereas you can see here as I'm talking, FillFinder's already taken a trade. And so initially here, just a couple minutes off the open here, a minute and a half, long from 26412, smaller target just filled. And so just putting the zone in right at the open. And as you know, sometimes the market's pretty volatile right at the open, and so you may want to wait after the first minute or two. But the request was to see how did it behave from the open, and so that's what I'm doing. But just as a note, obviously it might feel out of range in the first minute or two. And so that first initial range effort, you may not want to look to trade. You may want to activate your FillFinder zone once the minute or two has passed, but that's just a judgment call. And so for those of you that feel great about your zones and are all set, that's great. And you can simply use FillFinder Automation as a way to help in your decision making with regard to when to trade the zones, when to pass on the trade altogether. And that's what the algorithms do. Is if there's not an order flow confirmation, it simply waits until there is. And so if you're trading your zones without some sort of a clarifier, you may be in a position where you're taking, okay, so the stop was on the remaining portion of the position, the remaining 2 contracts, the stop was hit on that, and so now we'll just wait and see how it behaves. But if you're looking for an order clarifier to augment the zones you already like, FillFinder Plus Automation can fit into that very easily. And this is how. This request is from a trader who likes his zones and just simply wants to see if FillFinder could help make his zones pay a little more easily. And so that's what we're showing here. So 26410, you see the number and the blue arrow on the screen. And that's just a visual notification for you. It doesn't affect the functionality or have anything to do in the way with how FillFinder functions. It's just simply a notification in case you're at your desk and you're able to see it, letting you know that a potential stopping event has taken place and that the way has been opened somewhat for a potential for a reversal. And so that's the purpose of that blue arrow, but it's just, like I said, just for you, the end user. It does not impact the functionality of FillFinder. And so we're still within the first 5 minutes of the open. This is Friday, January 26th, looking at the Dow Mini Futures contract, and just over 4 minutes now since the open. Already one trade, long from 26,412. The smaller target was filled, and then the market came back, stopped out the remaining 2, and so Long a total of 7, smaller target on 5, and then out on the other 2. And so now we're just flat, as you can see here. In FillFinder, it'll let you know if you're flat, and so you don't have to guess. And then also you can obviously just have your control center open in another screen or off to the side, and you can track your fills that way as well. Okay, back down to a slightly lower low now. 26,403.
Order pending.
Okay, so long again now. 26,405, the long entry. The smaller target's at 409.
Order filled.
409 just filled. That's a limit order. All profit objectives are limit orders. And so 26,409 limit has been filled. Long from 26,405. The stop has now automatically moved up from 26,401 to 26,404, so it's within 2 ticks of the, excuse me, 1 tick, 26,405 within 1 tick of the entry. The larger target is 26,419, so 14 ticks up above the current entry here. Market's within a few ticks of it right now, trading at 15. And so just watching, this is a requested zone, and just watching how FillFinder.
Order filled.
Okay, so just filled at 26,419. And now we can continue to let this go forward here, and if the market gets up into the resistance zone, we'll see how things went at that time and place. But so far, had 2 entries long. The market came down almost to the tick to the bottom of the zone, so a nice effective zone in this case. So we'll remove support at this point, and now you can see the 2 trades, the indications there with the blue and red lines, just simply showing where the stop was initially, where the stop went after the first target was filled. And so now we can just continue to let the market play, and if it gets up to resistance, then we'll see how FillFinder handles that at that point. All right, so a little bit of time has gone by. Market's in the 26,430s. Zone begins, resistance zone begins at 26,446. And so as I had mentioned earlier, FillFinder is not looking for a trade right now. Only if and when the market's able to trade up to at least the bottom edge, the 26,446 edge in this case, of the resistance zone, will it then begin to look for a trade. If it trades into the zone, if it trades above the resistance zone, it can take a trade even above it, but it will not look for anything short, any short entry below the low edge of a resistance zone. And so at this point we're pretty close to it, so we'll just, if it gets into it, just a couple ticks now. And so we'll see how FillFinder handles it if and when it gets up to the zone, but it looks like it's about to. So as you saw, within the first minute, we activated this zone. I did 26,446 to 457. The zone's been active for a while. You don't have to sit at your desk the whole time. You can if you want. FillFinder will execute the trade whether you're there or not. And you can, in the FillFinder settings, you're able to control the maximum risk that FillFinder will take on. You can tell it a maximum risk. If there's an opportunity that spans too many ticks and you say, hey, that's too rich for me, I'm not going to take on that much risk per contract, then it will simply ignore the trade. You just tell it how many ticks, whatever your max ticks are, you put it in there. And if it's built within the parameter, it will take the trade. If it's outside of it, it won't. So we're at the level now. Okay, so filled at 26,446. Smaller targets at 26,440. Market's just above that now. Okay, so just filled 26,440. Profit objectives are always limit orders, just so you know. Stop has now moved to 26,446, the same as the entry. And so now it's just up to the market to either continue to cooperate, or at this point it's a winning trade because the stop on the remaining portion of positions at break even and the smaller target has been reached. And because there's more contracts on the smaller target than there are on the larger, there's money left over even if these end at break even if there's a little slippage. And so that's how you're able to set it. So with FillFinder, as I was saying, you can tell it the maximum risk you're willing to take. You can also tell it the minimum size structure you're willing to work with. Some traders don't want to get filled on a smaller structure. They want it to. Some traders believe that only if it's of a certain minimum size is it worth their effort or worth their willingness to take on risk. And so you can control not only the maximum risk that you're willing to accept, but also the minimum structure size. You can say, I don't want to be involved in this if it's smaller than X amount of ticks. And you can go all the way down to 1 tick. And so if you want to take absolutely anything that comes along, you can put in 1 tick. But if you want something braced out a little bit where it has to span, say, 5-6 ticks, just put that in. And anything smaller than that, there will be no fill. And so you're able to tell it in advance what you want. You're also able to set where your stop goes. It can stay where it was when it initially began, or the stop can move to your entry or somewhere near your entry. You're able to tell it where you'd like it to go. And so there's just a little bit of a rundown of the various controls that you have at your disposal. And once those are set, you are at that point you've said your maximums, your minimums, what you're comfortable with. All of those things are set. And so once you have that, once you have your levels in, it's going to do what you wanted. Now, of course, the market is live, and of course there can be slippage and things like that, but it will execute the orders at the locations that you said are your maximums or your minimums, and won't do anything outside of those. And so it's an enhanced control, while at the same time you have a tremendous amount of flexibility for each for your individuality. It might be different for you, obviously, than it would for anyone else, and so you have that ability to put whatever you want in terms of your preference in, and it will stay within or not go outside of those parameters. And so 26,430 is the larger target. The market got down to 33 and is now all the way back up almost to the entry. But I figured we could just let this play out and you can see the entire thing in real time. So far ticked 45 a couple of times, so within a tick of the break-even stop. And so if it is stopped out, the exit's at the entry on the remaining 2. And so this is really just not truly free, because as it's cooperated, that was real money that could have been realized. But it's also a chance to let a couple runners really just ride with the market, and if it wants to continue to cooperate, then you're there to get that bigger paycheck, and if it doesn't, then it's hopefully out at your entry or close to it. The stop, obviously, as you know, stop orders become market orders once the price trades, and so depending on the volatility and liquidity at the moment of the trigger, the moment of the price, the market price being hit, but you should be usually at your price or within a tick or two. But if you've traded for any length of time, you are familiar with the concept of slippage, the realities of it. And so 26,430, that's what we're waiting on. All right, so a second touch at 33, and market's back up now to about 38, 39. What often comes up, a trader will often ask after the market's come to within a few ticks, hey, wouldn't you just get out as close to your target as possible? And the answer is it depends on the trader. But okay, so it just filled. But what I was going to say is if you want to close quantity 2, just click the close quantity 2 button. Close quantity 1 closes quantity 1. Close all closes both quantity 1 and quantity 2. And so for an instance like that, or let's say it plunges down to 33 and then it's trading back around 36, 37, and you're sitting there and you happen to be watching and you say, you know what, it came within 3 ticks of my target. I don't really want to nickel and dime this. I'll just say that's good enough. If you want to do that, you can simply close whatever quantity it pertains to, in this case quantity 2, and that will then be a market order to liquidate that however many contracts are in quantity 2. But in this case, the target was eventually filled. The market pushed down to 26,428, so the 26,430 limit had just enough to fill, and now it's back up in that same range that it was in prior. And so that's a look at both zones, and at this point you would just remove resistance, so I'll go ahead and do that. But that's a look at both zones and the trade activity that took place. We can see on the resistance side, the resistance zone generated 1 trade, smaller target filled, larger target filled. In the process though, you had to wait, and twice it came down to 33 within 3 ticks of the target before eventually filling. And so at that point you may have chosen to get out sooner in real life, real time, but we can see how things worked out. And then earlier, right out of the gate, right at the open, the support zone, market got into the support zone, filled, got the smaller target, and then stopped out on the remaining 2 contracts, and then had another entry, and in that case got the smaller target, stop moved within 2 ticks of the entry, so had minimal risk on the remaining portion of the position, and the market didn't really look back all that much after filling the smaller target, came up, filled the larger target, and so all in all a reasonably decent outcome. If for the fill particulars, this is again Friday, January 26th, in the Dow Futures March 2018 contract. There was trade initiated, filled at 26,412. Smaller target was 16, so picked up 4 ticks on the smaller target. And in this case, FillFinder did not move the stop. It stayed at 26,406, and so a loss of 6 ticks on the remaining portion of the position. And then long again from 26,405. Smaller target 26,409 filled. Larger target 26,419 filled. And so that was the outcome for those 2 longs. And then on the sell side, the resistance zone, the trade was initiated at 26,446. So at the very bottom edge of the zone that we can see here, zone low at the top right, under the FillFinder control area. Zone low 26,446, and that happens to be where the fill took place. Smaller target was 26,440, so a gain of 6 ticks on that. And then the larger target 26,430 for a gain of 16 ticks. And so that's a look at the requested support and resistance zones. And like I had mentioned at the outset, if you have a request, just please include the market, the date, the price span, and if it's a support or a resistance zone. Remember to label the zone support or resistance, and you can just put that into the comments below, and then as I can, I'll get to those and get you a video for your request. So thanks so much everyone, and I hope this helps. Take care. Bye-bye.